We're racing across the world with just one goal: to win the league in as many countries as we can, as fast as we can. There's only a single rule: when it's time to switch nations, I can only move to clubs in cities that are within 250 kilometres of teams I've already beaten. It might sound quite far, but this whole journey is going to take us over 5,000 kilometres through 8 countries and into 3 leagues that I've never managed in before. We began in Azerbaijan, we spent a season in Turkey, and now we're getting into the proper parts of Europe with a trip to Greece. We're moving towards the end goal of a season in the Premier League, and it's the ultimate journeyman save. We'll be trying to learn as much as we can about every nation, city and club we play as, so sit back, grab some gyros, and let's dominate Athens. We've not mentioned where Neil Warnock's heading today yet. You guys voted for Trabzonspor in episode 2, but I don't think you'll have voted for OFI Crete over the 3 Athens teams this time. We had offers from 2 of them, Olympiakos and Panathinaikos, but we're actually moving to the 5th biggest island in the Mediterranean in the south of Greece. Heraklion is the biggest city in Crete, and it's most well known for the Minotaur and his labyrinth, and it's also home to one of Europe's oldest civilizations, the Minoans. It was also home to 1986 Greek Super League runners-up, OFI Crete. They've not had a good team since the late 80s, but with Warnock in charge, things are about to change. For the first time, the 2 routes that we can take to leave Greece actually end up in different countries. With northern Greece being pretty empty when it comes to teams, Panathinaikos and Aris are our best chances to race through Serbia. On the other side of Greece, we can actually beat Paz Giannina and move to Italian club Lecce, who have now been relegated back to Serie B. It's a tough choice between a 2-season rebuild in a better quality Italian league or a 1-season run at the title with Serbia's worst team, Radnik Srdica. We've got a ton of huge games coming up this season before we have to decide though. We will actually get 2 attempts at leaving the country because Aris and Panathinaikos both share the same city, but we'll also need to beat the reigning champions AEK Athens to make sure we get the title. Panathinaikos, Olympiakos and PAOK are all also huge matches if we want to go on to be champions. While I'm not totally up to date with my Greek football squads, it was actually surprising how many of this team we actually knew. John Terral played for Brentford, Aaron Leia Iseka used to play for Barnsley, and Nua Dicko was in the Championship too. They all played against Warnock's Cardiff side, and that's the era of tactics we're going to be using this season. Just like every save, July is all about learning about who you need to sign and sell. We wanted a bit more technique and height at the back, and our academy scout found us just the man. At 17 years old, Demetrio is a homegrown fan of the club, and who knows, maybe his free kick abilities will actually win us a game later in the season. We can't only rely on our academy though. With the size of our budget being £15 million, I would assume a very wealthy fan has probably taken over the club. We want to keep things as Greek as possible, so every player we're going to sign is going to be from a different Greek island. First up, we decide to splurge on homegrown Cretan striker Georgios Giacomakis, free agent Taxiarchis Funtas, who's coming with us from Trabzonspor, and British-born Greek international George Baldock. We also have the opportunity to loan in the Greek wonderkid Georgios Koutseis. With our first set of deals fully finalised, it was time for Warnock to manage its first ever game in the Greek Super League. Our first match was actually a really big one too. We'd be visiting Thessaloniki to play Aris, who were one of the teams that we had to beat if we wanted to move to Serbia. When it comes to squads in the Greek Super League though, Aris are actually not that good of a team. The one thing that they are really good at though is providing an atmosphere. Their fan group Super 3 is one of the largest left-wing, radical anarchist groups in the entire continent of Europe, and their fans provide one of the best backdrops to any away day that you can ever experience. So we knew it was going to be tough to even get a point in our first match of the season in Thessaloniki. Our goalkeeper was absolutely keeping us in it and giving us a chance of getting that point, and Mosquera would have our first real chance. 1-on-1 with Brabec, somehow he doesn't even hit the target. Because it took us 45 minutes to get our first chance, we knew that the second chance we got in the second half would absolutely have to count. So when we got brought down on the edge of the box, we knew we had to shoot from this chance. Demetrio has the playstyle plus for free kick taking, so as he ran up, we were pretty confident. Unfortunately, it turned out to be one of the worst free kicks I've ever seen. In the season that Cardiff got promoted under Neil Warnock, a lot of their goals came from a rapid winger who was playing more like a striker. Junior Hoylett back there, but Koutsaias has the exact same profile for us. He didn't quite have enough pace right there to get on the end of that ball, but we knew he'd get at least one more chance in this game. When our substitute midfielder Kayo played it through to Koutsaias, we thought that was going to be the chance, but it was another absolutely amazing save in a game that was absolutely dominated by the goalkeepers. With the game ending as a draw, that means we don't actually have Aris as a way out of the country, so we're going to need to beat the other team from Thessaloniki. After Aris, we faced Panathinaikos, a team that was only a few points ahead of us last season. This summer, we'd massively improved our squad, and theirs had only got weaker, so it was a pretty easy win. We'd actually had a pretty good start to the season too, but if any team was going to stop that, it was going to be one of the teams from Athens. Annoyingly, in our next 4 matches, we had to play all 3 of the Athens Giants. The first of these games was against last year's champions, AEK. Last year, AEK went on to get 86 points, which was a whole 22 more than second place PAOK, so this was going to be a very tough game. They were by far the best team in this division when it came to squad quality. They've won about 17 titles, which is the second most ever, and we were riding our luck early in this game. A really good interception and a really good block there, keeping it 0-0. Just before half time, John Terrell would move forward, and it was probably the worst shot we'll have this entire season. We kept attacking, and a really nice back heel from Terrell saw George Baldock, the man who scored 11 goals in over 400 games, score his first goal in just his second match for OFI Crete. We're playing him as a right mid in a 3-5-2, so maybe he's going to get forward a little bit more, but still, it was a bit of a collector's item seeing a goal from George Baldock. Because they're playing in the Champions League, AEK Athens actually made quite a few changes at half-time. One of the players they didn't bring off was Ezequiel Ponce, and he was a big part of this move, where Zine would have yet another shot saved by our goalkeeper. In these first 2 matches, our goalkeeper was on absolute top form. He had another save after 55 minutes, and it only took another 3 minutes for him to have to make another save. This time, it was a double save where he just about caught the ball away from the striker. Taxiarchos Funtas got subbed off. He's not actually impressed us too much in these first 2 games. He seemed a lot more effective playing in Turkey than in Greece, and maybe it's the more attacking nature of the Greek Super League versus the Turkish Super League. But we need him to step up if we are going to go on to win this title. If we're going to win this match, all we have to do is see out another 30 seconds. So we decide to press high, and we confirm we beat AEK Athens at home. They were so good last season, but we've managed to beat them. This could actually turn out to be our year. Somehow, even with one of the hardest starts possible and a loss thrown in, we were still towards the top of the league after just 4 games. Unsurprisingly though, one of the teams above us was Olympiakos, but we had the chance to fix that. In training, our first choice goalkeeper Pashalakis had a knock, so former FIFA wonderkid Stefanos Kapino got the gloves against his former team. He didn't quite live up to his 86 potential on FIFA, but now he had the chance to show the world how good he could have been. The teams in this match had a combined 47 league titles between them. That's right, we have 0, Olympiakos have nearly 50, and you know that they're trying to get another title this season. They were going to be another one of our massive rivals, even if their team wasn't quite as good as it has been in a few other seasons. Olympiakos are on really good form. I mean, last year they got to the Europa Conference League final and lost it, but really we should have gone ahead right there. Funtas yet again disappointing with his finishing. Geografifa has also been quite a disappointing signing. He hasn't actually scored a goal for us, but nearly did from that corner, but the game stays at 0-0. It looked like things were about to change though, because we made a massive mistake. We got a kind of harsh red card right there with Giannoulis, and we didn't even have another centre-back on the bench. We decided to bring in the Icelandic left-back Þórir Arinsson to play centre-back, but of course with a very young centre-back, a left-back, and someone very tired, things were not looking good. It didn't actually take Olympiakos that long to pull the ball across and basically score in an open net. Not great goalkeeping there from Capino, but that just meant we had to go all-out attack for the rest of this game. Mosquera would run down the wing. He would find Funtas, a strange chip up, and it would fall to Baldock. He was so close to getting a second goal in as many games. We subbed on Nua Dicko, and it was his run from deep that went around 4 players before he coolly finessed the ball past the Olympiakos goalkeeper. That point could be absolutely massive come the end of the season. He's our 4th choice striker, but honestly it was a run that someone like Lionel Messi would have been happy to do. We of course want to try and go on and get the win. Funtas would play it through to Felipe, and it was only a great save from Olympiakos that kept us from scoring the 87th and 92nd minute. We take the draw, but we could easily have won that match. We were heading away for our last game of the Athens hat-trick too, with Panathinaikos hosting us after we did a long flight from Crete to Athens. Just like Olympiakos, Panathinaikos are one of the teams above us in the table. We'd be making this 320-kilometre trip knowing we had the chance to overtake them with a win and getting a little bit closer to that top spot. It did seem like this could be Panathinaikos' year though. Unlike AEK Athens and Olympiakos, who have shown a little bit of weakness even if it was only against us, Panathinaikos haven't lost a game, they haven't drawn a game, they've played 5 and won all 5. We knew that we had to make the most of every single chance that we got. The first one was John Terrell smashing it over the bar from outside the box, but the second one was actually a much better chance. Terrell would pass it to Koutsias, and it was yet another absolutely amazing save in the Greek League that kept the game goalless. Terrell was the best player of this match by far. We were producing some nice passing moves, and we were so close to getting in there with a bit of tiki-taka on the edge of the box. Panathinaikos finally showed up in the second half, and they did a bit of tiki-taka themselves. Some great defending there from Mosquera, and we just about keep the ball clear. 10 minutes later, Fountas finally did a big impact on a game. He cut inside the ball, we had a chance, it would fall back to Fountas. We couldn't quite score, but at least it's positive when it comes to how well he's performing. He would be involved again right here, winning the ball high, passing it to John Terrell. We pulled it across, but it was Dimitriou, our young centre-back, hitting it. Anyone else, and I think that's a goal. But of course, with just a few minutes left, Panathinaikos are going to try and win this game too. We got so lucky, not only with the penalty shout, but with the amazing save. But we couldn't clear the ball. They would recycle it. They would get the ball on the end of the box. Vilhena into Mancini. And with just 15 seconds left in the match, Panathinaikos proved why they had gone on to now win 6 out of 6 at the start of the season. They were the ones to watch. We did have one last chance, but we didn't make the most of it, and Panathinaikos would now extend their lead at the top of the table. With our hardest 3 games out of the way early in this half of the season, the only other important game was on the last day of November. We were actually on a really good run before that though. We beat Kefisias, Atromitos and Volos in a row, but then it was time. After we drew with Aris, we really had to try and beat Paskianina just to make sure we could leave the country on the low chance that we somehow won this championship. If we didn't beat them, it wasn't officially over though, because we could get another chance at beating either them or Aris, because this league splits into a championship and relegation group at the end of the season. If we don't win today, we could get lucky and face one of them away, but it was definitely not a certainty, so we had to win this match. With only about 10 or so games of the main season to go, George Baldock, our current player of the season, decided he wants to retire at the end of this year. That means if we can't beat this team, if we don't win the league, then we're going to have to find a new star man to play on that right wing. It's almost impressive how bad Epirus, the region that Paskianina are from, is at football. It's also impressive how bad that goal would have been if we weren't rescued by the linesman's flag saying that that goal was actually offside. We had a second chance to stay in this match, of course. With the bizarre quality of the goalkeepers in Greece, I think this is the lowest scoring league I've ever been in. Just look at that save right there. That is an absolute world-class save from one of the worst teams in the Greek Super League. It's not just that the goalkeepers are good though, I think the finishing on average is pretty poor compared to both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Fountas is known for his finesse shots, but he can't even hit the target right there. John Terrell, yet again being a really good player, a bicycle kick, poor finish, and finally we get the goal that sends those away fans absolutely crazy. Fountas with his first goal, but honestly we expected him to finish it. It's the assist that is worth looking at again. The bicycle kick off the crossbar, you can tell it wasn't an intended assist, but it's going to be huge for our season nonetheless. Koutsias has the chance to make it 2-0, and yet again, the finishing is lacking from the young striker. Despite both our strikers and Fountas playing pretty poorly, we just about hold on and we get a massively important win. After the relief of beating the only Epirot team to ever make the first division, the very next game was away at AEK Athens. Because the league splits in half very soon, we need to be as close as we can to the leaders just to make sure we get the championship group. This means a win against AEK Athens would be absolutely massive. While I couldn't quite beat AEK Athens, Warnock's 3-5-2 formation still saw out the rest of the season in style. We had a win against Lamia, where the Koutsias and Giacomakis partnership was just way too good for them, and we also got a draw against Olympiakos at home. This was the match that guaranteed our spot in the championship group. With 6 teams in the group, every team plays each other twice, which means we have 10 games to try and overtake both PAOK and Panathinaikos and win this title. We actually opened the group stage with an away tie at Olympiakos. We weren't expecting much, but somehow we got an early lead and then managed to hold on for the rest of the game. The next match was against Panathinaikos, who somehow scraped into the championship group. I'm not sure how they did it, but this away day was massive in more than one way. We could finally beat a team from Thessaloniki and get that route to Serbia that we really want. While it would be fun to head to Italy rather than Serbia, I think it would be more interesting to go via Serbia, Croatia and Germany than it would be to go via Italy, France and Belgium. If we want to have the choice though, we still have to win this game, and Panathinaikos were in the championship group for a reason. They're really threatening, they have a lot of pace down the wings, and we just had to make the most of any chance we got. Thankfully, John Terral, another one of our Player of the Year contenders, scored his first goal of the season with his head after a really nice cross from our striker. Not the combination that you would expect, but thankfully the one that we got. With just a few seconds left to hold on into this game, they wasted their final chance, and we confirmed we can head via Serbia and Croatia if that's the route that we choose. Now all we had to do was just win the league. We still had 6 points to try and make up on the leaders, but we did have 2 games to play against Panathinaikos. The first of the 2 was away, and the other one was at home, but on the very last day of the season. It wasn't quite clear if it was a freak accident or if it was just wear and tear from playing the entire season, but Dimitriou's injury meant that Gian Olus was going to be starting for us. His debut, his first game of the season, when he's not even starting for our B team. It was going to be a massive ask of him to help us keep a clean sheet. In fact, we couldn't even keep a clean sheet for the first 5 minutes. Neil Warnock was absolutely fuming. We could be throwing away this title opportunity in the match where it matters the most. Giannopoulos missing the header, and it was so close to being 2-0, and both goals would have probably been the debutante's mistakes. While he doesn't have much experience, Baldock does, and it was his run and his cut inside that found us the equaliser just before the half-an-hour mark. It was a cool flip, and we were back in this game, back in the title hunt. All we needed was one more goal. We had the chance to get it when Koutsaias used his pace to get into the box, but Dragowski produced an absolutely top-class save. We had another chance, but the ball was cleared off the line from the corner, and then the next chance was looped over the bar. Something you might not know about Neil Warnock is that he used to be a winger himself. He wasn't a rapid, tricky winger. He was much more like George Baldock, and I think he would have been very happy with his performance in this first half. But still, Neil Warnock gave a typically fiery halftime speech. He fired up all of his team, and they all went out looking very inspired. A big mistake there from our centre-back, who decided to flop on the floor, and another mistake from our goalkeeper proved that sometimes the best team talks aren't actually that effective on the pitch. This left us with 15 minutes to try and win this match, and Felipe got us back into it with a nice shot looping over the goalkeeper. Real topspin on that effort. Lua Dicko came off the bench. He ran from deep. He ran inside 2 players. He cut it back to Felipe. His pass across to Abanda was eventually turned in. It was a typical Neil Warnock tactical masterclass, his substitutes all combining, and after one of the most important turnarounds of his career, his team were now just 6 points off first place Panathinaikos. Despite winning the game, we hadn't actually won anything yet. We had 3 games before we had to play Panathinaikos again. The first was against PAOK, who we beat. The second was against AEK Athens, visiting our home ground, which we drew. And another draw at home to PAOK meant we knew that a win in our final game of the season would actually give us the title. 64 points would be the lowest winning score in any Greek Super League season. That just proves how close this league has been. From last place to first, any team was capable of beating any team, and we already knew we were capable of beating Panathinaikos. It was only 3 weeks ago that we beat them for the last time, and now we had our home crowd behind us. We had 2 of the teams from Athens also supporting us just to prevent Panathinaikos getting another title. It seemed like the whole of Greece wanted us to win this game, and with his performance in the first 10 minutes, Stefanos Kapino definitely wanted redemption. We had a chance to go ahead. Koutsaias with an absolutely terrible finish. that would have eased the nerves all around the stadium. The rest of the first half was all about Panathinaikos. We got lucky with some defending and also got lucky with some terrible finishing from their striker. Something about the championship group really has made the Greek Super League come alive. There's chances all over the place. Our first big one falls to Geografifa, our star striker, our record signing, our hometown boy. He only played 10 games for OFI on loan back in 2019 before we signed him, but he is loving being at the club he supported growing up, and Funtas is also having one of the best games he's had for OFI Crete. Neil Warnock's sides love big game players, and it looked like all of his signings had that trait, because Koutsaias was also on fire in this match. He used his pace to run around the defence, and he cheekily chipped it over the goalkeeper, and out of absolutely nowhere, Crete had a 2-0 lead. He hasn't showed any of this pace throughout this season until this game, but what a time to show it. Giacomakis used some strength that he hasn't shown this season either, and Fontas had the chance to do what he did for Trabzonspor and score a really important game, but we couldn't quite kill the game off. Caro would intercept the ball, Koutsaias would flick it up, and Giacomakis from the edge of the box would lob the keeper with a header. Out of nowhere, that goal, and to be fair, all of the goals in this game have been absolutely ridiculous, low XG chances. They're the kind of goals that only passionate, big game players can score, and that is what Neil Warnock is all about. Theodosolakis could have made it even better if he had a little bit more pace, but 3-0 is more than good enough for what Neil Warnock wants us to do. Of course, Panathinaikos are not going to give up this easily. They have a lot of pride themselves, but it's another great save that from Stefanos Kapino. Trying to keep a clean sheet in this last game of the season. We'll have to defend one more corner, and then we could be champions. Kapino claims it. He actually sees it's 2v1 up front, and Theodosolakis flicks it on. Abanda keeps running, and he's got Giacomakis. He's one-on-one. He's got the pace to stay away from the defender, and he gets the big match, the final match of the season hat-trick that wins his hometown club the championship title. I don't think I can express how happy that makes me, that not only have we officially won the league and we can get out of Greece, but we did it with a hometown player at his boyhood club. Absolutely crazy scenes. Somehow, OFI Crete had done it. We were Greek champions, and we now had the perfect routes to both Serbia and Italy lined up for the next episode. If you're a channel member, you can vote which country you want me to go to with the poll that's linked in the description below. It's been another absolutely crazy season. I wasn't expecting it to end just like that. I was thinking this was going to be 2 seasons at a minimum, but somehow we pulled it out the bag and Panathinaikos absolutely collapsed towards the end of the season. But thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for all the channel members who've joined the channel recently. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.